Time moves so fast. Sometimes I just want to reach out and freeze it, and then ask myself, is this really where I want to be? Or is there someplace else I can find myself that feels less rushed, hurried, and distracting? For me, that place is the 9 million plus acres of public land between Idaho, Oregon, and Nevada we call the Owyhees. So I struck out on my own to find a place to slow down. I decided to stay on the Idaho side of the Owyhees on this trip. A lot of people forget that the Idaho Owyhees has canyons just as majestic as the Oregon side, and this side is filled with more locals and less tourists, especially in the winter. My goal for the day was simple: explore this epic area and find an awesome campsite. And I was off to a great start.
Well, this is a pretty spectacular place. I can't imagine a better view than this tonight, watching the sunset. My only complaint is that it's a little too close to people, so I might drive around a little bit just to see if there's anything else out here, but I might just come back. This is just spectacular. Wow.
This particular canyon runs along the mighty Snake River, a river that's both a lifeblood to this area as well as being known for a life taker back when settlers had to try to convert their wagons into boats and float across on their quest to find Oregon. This part of the Snake River is called Swan Falls, and it's where a dam was built back in 1901 to bring power to the mines near Silver City, Idaho. The dam, the river, and the views are all still in use today. In the winter, there's no one out here, and you quickly feel isolated and alone, which is exactly what I was hoping for.
Holy cow, this one's even better. In terms of a campsite, it's bigger, it's got more space, it's flatter, it's got, God, just as good of a view, if not better. Oh man, it's like 300 yards from the last one. I'm not gonna make it very far at this rate. Wow, how lucky am I? This is like 45 minutes from my front door. This is unbelievable. God, I love Idaho.
I've always wanted to drive along the rim like this, but in the warmer months, almost all of these places are packed with RVs, side-by-sides, and even the occasional Jeep. The roads were starting to warm up with the sun on them, but the layer of snow kept things from getting very muddy, which, if you are familiar with Owyhee mud, you know that is a very good thing. As I came to yet another outstanding campsite on the rim, I resisted the urge to get out and walk around. By now, the day was getting on, and there were still some areas out here I wanted to explore. I don't go out alone very often. In fact, this is only my second time ever. And even though there is increased risk if I get into a recovery situation, there's also increased peace. And it was in this moment that I also realized I was having a hard time making decisions because it was just me. I'm so used to being around other people and weighing their wants and needs that I'm out of practice just thinking about what I want to do. Has that ever happened to you?
Well, there's no shortage of epic campsites out here. I just pulled up Onyx Road just to kind of check where I am on the trail. And I see that there is a trail that goes down the canyon wall and then down to the water. And I think I might just go try to find it because I've got time on my hands. I've got nothing going on. I've got all this peace and quiet to myself and it feels so good. So I think I'm just gonna drive down there and see if I can get down the river.
Well, I'm trying to get down to the river, but I just keep driving by campsites with views like this one. I mean, this is just, get out of town, come on, amazing. Wow. Yeah, these are the airplane things. They must have airplanes flying through here, and they put these colored balls on these wires to make sure that the airplanes see them and don't fly into them. Wow, really makes you pucker a little bit as you come up to the edge. I mean, the edge is like right there.
think we're just gonna back up and turn around. I think that's a good idea.
As I worked my way away from the canyon back toward what looked like a gulch leading down to the river, things got a little muddier, but not so bad that I wanted to turn back just yet. And I'm almost always game for a few good puddles, something I'd have a lot more of before setting up camp tonight. As I approached the gulch, the road started changing a bit more, and daylight was starting to run thin. So I took a sec and evaluated where I was and what I wanted to do.
Well, I think this road does go down to the river. I can see it kind of snaking through the canyon. I flew the drone over and it looks like it cuts back towards the river. The problem is that I can see from the drone is that it looks like the lower elevation it goes, the muddier the trail becomes. And I think I'm on the verge right now of it being too muddy. Number one, because I'm out here alone and this is the world's worst mud. Number two, because I don't want to tear up the trail. I feel like I'm borderline right now driving, tearing up the trail. I think it's still cold enough. It feels like it's still cold enough that the mud's kind of been holding. I'm not carving out any major ruts or anything like that. But I think if I went down there, I might risk getting stuck. So I also just need to turn that part of my brain off, the part of my brain that's going, go, 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 go see more, go see more, go see more. You know, like I got to turn that off and just chill out because that's what I'm here to do. So I'm going to turn around and head back to one of those awesome canyon rim campsites and just start a fire, put up a chair and just chill out.
I beelined right back to the second campsite I stopped at earlier in the day, and it was just as good as when I saw it the first time. This canyon was formed 1.2 million years ago when the nearby Sinker Butte erupted with lava and was then cut away by the river. The geology of the canyon walls consists of pillow basalt formed when lava meets water and compressed ash and cinder caused by multiple eruptions that happened back to back. And the red that you see is where the water is leaching out the iron from the basalt, and the result is a masterpiece of natural beauty.
Well, as beautiful as it is up here with the sun setting and mountains in the background, and Chris just arrived, so Chris is here to hang out for the night. I just texted him, I was like, hey, I need a night out, I'm going out. You know, if you want to join me, here's the coordinates. And he totally showed up. So that's what friends do, they show up. But it's really windy. The wind has definitely picked up and the sun hasn't even set yet. So it makes me think that it's gonna get even windier tonight. Probably gonna try to find a way to get out of this wind, maybe get off the canyon and figure out where to set up camp.
On our way down the canyon to the river, we hit a few puddles, which I used as a bit of a car wash to get some of the mud off my doors. The puddles worked, and I arrived at camp with a bit less mud to deal with. As evening set in and we started setting up camp, a storm was brewing above us, but the ancient canyon walls kept things relatively mild for us down by the river. We could see clouds moving quickly above us, an indication that the wind on the rim had gotten worse. And although we had a cool breeze running through camp, it was a much better spot to spend the night.
So I was thinking that I was gonna go out on a solo trip, but I texted Chris, hey, I'm going to this location. If you're available tonight, maybe come meet me. And he did. Like, it's what all good friends do. They show up. And so to celebrate, I didn't know I was gonna share this with him, but I'm happy that he's here because we're going to try this Grand Teton Private Stock. Is that what it's called?
Private reserve?
Private stock.
Ooh.
Grand Teton Private Stock, aged 8 years, single barrel bourbon. This is from the Grand Teton distillery that is in Driggs, Idaho. So,
Great.
my friend, let me see your mug.
So Will thinks that I'm here to hang out with him, but really it's for his whiskey.
That's okay. I'm happy to pay whiskey for friends, as long as they're good friends. And you, sir, are a good friend.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Right back at you.
Ooh, that's really good.
That is really nice.
That is really good.
Yeah.
You can really taste the wood, like I don't know what kind of oak they used or if they used oak. Wow. Well,
There's
when
actually
it's
no wood.
when it's light out, I'll read the label. But for now, I'm just gonna enjoy this by the fire, man. Cheers. This is
Cheers. Yeah.
gonna be a good night.
Yeah, good choice. Nice selection.
Eventually, the storm made its way down to the river, and we started to see a bit of snow while cooking dinner.
So this is the kind of corn snow, almost hail that we're getting right now. So I'm hopeful that it won't continue too long, but it's making the night interesting. These are the beautiful. Are those New York strips?
These are ribeyes.
Oh, look at this. Time to chow down.
Yeah, time to dive in.
Dinner in a deserted place outside in a snowstorm. Doesn't sound very comfortable, but you'd be surprised how cozy a warm fire can make a cold, stormy night. The next morning had no signs of snow from the night before. The air was still, and while there was still a good chill in the air, for a couple Idaho boys, it just felt refreshing.
Well, it's a chilly morning, but it's a beautiful morning. The sky's just turning blue. The sun's just starting to come over the canyon rim up there. And Chris is gonna depart. He's gotta go back and get back to the real world. I, however, am gonna stay out and have another day to my own, just exploring around this area. And there's a couple places that I've been thinking about going. I really didn't have much of a plan or agenda. And so I've heard and read about this old stagecoach road that used to run from Silver City down to Boise. And it was a main supply route, but it was also a place where most of the stagecoach robberies and crimes happened. It was also a place where there's a lot of battles and ambushes between Native Americans and the miners and things. And so I might go check that out, but there's just so much out here. There's 9 million plus acres of public land out here between Idaho, Oregon, and Nevada. We call it the Ion area, I-O-N, Ion. It's not great to say goodbye to Chris, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to having some more time to myself, just exploring this area.
The puddles from the day before were waiting for us. This time, they were frozen over, but just as fun to drive. With Chris on his way home, I set out toward the small town of Murphy, Idaho. But before he left, Chris showed me a route to get there that would take me along the Snake River. I made a quick stop along the way because I kept seeing wildlife out enjoying the nice weather. And there was a particular spot on the river that was teeming with all different types of birds. So I set up shop for a few minutes and just enjoyed watching them fly across the sky with the Owyhees in the background. Before long, I hit the town of Murphy and found one of the biggest surprises on this side of the river, the Owyhee Museum. This place is packed packed with the history of the Owyhees. They have an intact schoolhouse, a blacksmith shop, and even an interactive mining exhibit. This exhibit, while modest, gives you a feel for the mining shafts where so many pioneers spent most of their time extracting gold, silver, and anything else of value they could get their picks on. The rest of the museum is literally wall to wall with historical artifacts, stories of the ranchers and Native Americans, and incredibly preserved wagons.
So I just had the best time in the Owyhee Museum. It's full of like interesting stories, which, you know, for me as a history buff, especially like the history of the place that I love and live, it's just so cool. All the different ranches and the mines, and I found so many stories now that I have to go investigate and see if I can go find those places and figure out what happened. And anyway, I'm just leaving this place feeling like really charged up about how awesome the Owyhees are and how many great stories are out here. So let's go try to find one.
What I found, with a little help from the folks at the museum, was Reynolds Creek Stage Road. This is a well-used road that takes you up into the Owyhees from Murphy. It got its start as a stage road running supplies into Silver City in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Now, I was on a paved portion, but it soon turned to dirt as I climbed higher.
So as I was talking to somebody who works at the museum, they were telling me about this side road that goes to a place where like Native American dwellings can still be seen, or something like that. Anyway, it was enough to spark my interest that I'm going to try to look for that. The other thing that I have seen and have heard about is that there's a cemetery up here somewhere. So both those things, in my mind, are worth exploring right now. Well, this is the road that I was told to take to go find those Native American dwellings. And there's a sign here that says that you shouldn't be using this road in the winter. So I'm going to skip it this time, but maybe come back here when it's warmer.
After a little more climbing, the road empties out into a beautiful basin right at the feet of some of the larger mountains in the Owyhees. The recent snows blanketed this entire area, muffling the sounds and making it feel newly clean just for me, since there was absolutely no one else out here with me. I really wanted to find the cemetery, but the only thing I had to go on was a few pictures from Facebook. However, as I wound my way through the roads in this basin, I could see what looked like a grouping of houses and buildings. So I headed there to see what I could find. And before long, I came to a place I think is called Reynolds, which makes a lot of sense based on the name of the road.
Well, this is the Reynolds Cemetery that I'd heard about, and it looks awesome. I mean, this looks like a pioneer cemetery, and it's in the most beautiful setting. We're in this little valley with the mountains all around us and different kind of rock structures, and it just feels very, I don't know, poetic or something. And so I'm gonna see if I can take a closer look. There's no lock on the gate, and so let's go take a little bit closer look and see what there is in there.
The graves here are old, really old. And the names on these headstones tell the story of how Idaho was born. Some of them lived long lives and some very short, as is common to find in pioneer graveyards. Many families lie in rest together, even as nature tries to reclaim parts of the graveyard. For me, it was sad and beautiful at the same time.
Well, if you're gonna be laid to rest, I can't think of a more peaceful setting than this valley in this part of the Owyhees with these mountains surrounding you.
With my graveyard found, it was time to explore the mountains around me, and one road in particular was calling my name. The sun was making it jump off the mountain, and it looked like a great place to find a campsite. And the name, Whiskey Mountain Road, made me extra curious. The road was covered in snow but had been driven on, but I was still cognizant that I was out here alone, so I lowered my tolerance to take risks as I climbed up the mountain. What I kept finding was that each small climb or bend in the road unlocked a slightly different view of the mountains or the valley below. I don't normally get this close to the Owyhee Peaks in the winter, partly because it can be dangerous, and partly because I just never really tried. I'm normally looking at them from across the valley floor, but to be in the middle of them right after a snowstorm all by myself was something really special.
It is beautiful up here, but it is super, super windy. So it's like blowing the Jeep around on the slick road. So it's probably 20, 30 mile an hour winds that I'm feeling right now. It was so bad, like the drone, even my big drone that has really powerful motors, could not take the wind. It was basically like I had full power going forward and it was at a standstill. The wind was just like keeping it in place. So I'm gonna head back down. I will come back up this road though. It looks awesome. I cannot wait to come back up here because wow, is this a beautiful area. And I'm at a loss. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go try to find some place out of the wind if I can to spend camp tonight. Hopefully someplace pretty, but right now I'm just thinking about not getting blown all over the place tonight. So the good news is the drive down is gonna be super pretty.
The drive down was uneventful, and I decided to jump back on Reynolds Creek Road just to see where it went. Now, I sometimes hold my nose when driving on paved roads, but lately I've come to put my ego aside and just appreciate the natural beauty of places, no matter what kind of road I'm driving. And this road was surrounded by volcanic rock hills that have been carved by the wind and rain to create something that is uniquely Owyhee looking. Part high desert, part canyonlands, and part Idaho. As the road wound around the valley, I started to realize where I was. I could see the Treasure Valley below me, and the surrounding area started looking very familiar again. And before I knew it, I was very close to where I'd spent the summer rock crawling my XJ.
Well, this road I've been following is beautiful, but it's kind of brought me back closer to the Treasure Valley, so I can like almost see my house from here. So it's late, it's almost 6 o'clock now, and I'm gonna have to work to get away from people. There's some really cool places around here, like some cool campsites and things, but this is a pretty traveled road, I think, and I really don't like camping next to any place that has traffic or anything like that. So I don't know, this has been a great day. I learned a lot about this area. I have a lot to think about in terms of stories that I might want to tell on the channel and other places that I might want to go based on some of the places I went today, people I talked to, the stuff I learned at the museum. And so I think what I'm going to do now is head back home, see Kate and the kids, and like start planning all the trips that I'm going to make back to this area now. I can't stop thinking about it. And so as I'm heading back home, I'm feeling mostly gratitude to live where I live, that I have an awesome family that I want to go home to, and that all of you are watching this video. Thank you, and hopefully you'll tune back in to see all the adventures yet to come. Until then, I'm Wolf from Venture to Rome. Thanks for watching.